Everyone, this is Gnorgat, and today I wanted to bring you a replay analysis of one of my games. This is a mirror match. I think someone asked about how do you play the mirror match, and while this is more of a basic replay where my opponent is doing not anything in particular like wrong, but they just they do the standard lines and I play into the standard lines because I know how to do that, and I wanted to show that off. Obviously, if both players know the matchup well, you'll get into a grind game. So if I find a replay like that, and you want to see that, and I can upload a replay like that. But let's just hop into this video and start. So I lost the rock paper scissors, so my opponent decided here to go first, and we have Dark End Evaporation Dragon. That's the build I'm currently on. We have 5 mana, we have Mululu, we have Kitu, we have Pan. Now, only hand trap here is the 5 mana, but we have a lot of options with the 5 mana. So we can do an Arthalion, obviously, with a negate and a pop. We can go into a Chaos Star Source Dragon. We don't have a Spellcaster, so we can't do Mysterion. So we could go for a Gulamel, but generally that is not very resource effective here. But let's see what our opponent does. But generally a tip in any matchup, just if you have a 5 mana, just look at your options, and then just so that you already narrowed down the options and you can think about what to do once the moment arrives. So my opponent goes tempo phase, main phase, and they start with a Lucius. So we are in the mirror. I said that in the beginning, but this is the moment where I see it's the mirror. So they go Lucius, they go if I add 5 mana, and I obviously don't do anything here, and they go activate 5 mana right away. So discard that for cost, and I already have a line here. Now, if I had a Spellcaster, I could decide to make a Secretarian here, but I don't know what is in their hand. Like the Secretarian would deny the Arthalion, which is nice, but they still get the Grave triggers, and if they, for example, have a Pan, then my Secretarian just get popped and they make the Arthalion later with a Rahu, or they don't pop my monster and they just K2. So I didn't want to put any bodies on board until the K2 resolved, because in this matchup, whoever has more resolves more fusions, that's generally the most important thing, just resolving more fusions. So going second generally is nice, but obviously whoever is first can set up the flame, which checks one of the fusions. So just keep that in mind. Just try to activate more spells than your opponent. That's a good rule of thumb. Obviously it's a bit more complex than that, but that's the reason why I don't use the 5 mana early, because I want them to use Kitu before I put a body on board. So they fuse away the Lucius, which tells me they don't have a name in hand, because I can show the hand. It tells me they don't have a name in hand, but because otherwise they could fuse a name in hand plus whatever monster, make Arthalion, make seals. So they go for the standard line here, and they correctly also use extra resources from hand, because the Fualos doesn't do anything, right? So you might as well swap it for a different card. And you, of course, want the Hedgehog trigger here. So that is the correct combo here. And I just let it through. And the Arthalion now can target. So we, at this point, because we waited with 5 mana, we have a read on our opponent's hand, and that is there is no Dracotail in these 2 cards, so I don't have to fear like a Mululu or Pan, and I also know they are on the Shadow build, and they will probably get something here. So I can probably assume like those are either spells or traps, or they are hand traps. So our opponent is triggering the Grave effects, Hedgehog, and targets 5 mana and Lucius with Arthalion. Now, I probably would have, instead of Lucius, grabbed the Hedgehog to give ourselves a Winda play. That's the Winda line. I'm not a fan of Winda, I think everyone knows that, but if you play the package, then you want to set it up at least here. That being said, our opponent didn't know we are on Dracotail, but into Dracotail, it's probably better just to resolve the Lucius, because Winda does nothing. Like, look at my hand. I can just negate the Winda, pop something else, just go off here. So opponent is just going for the Shadow Beast, setting the Rahu, and adding back these 2. So now they activate the Rahu, and they go send the Shadow Beast here, I think, to get an extra draw. Oh no, they get the 5 mana, yeah, because they haven't triggered 5 mana yet. So they want to set up the 2 traps. Get the Gulamel, pretty standard, and send the Urgula to grab back the 5 mana. Very, very standard line here. And now they have the setup with 2 traps. And they have the 5 mana in hand, a Gulamel on board, another Dracotail name, and there's a random Shuttle Beast that gives them the draw, I guess. And 2 cards that we can deduce are hand traps, because or spells. But they didn't use Kitu yet, so I can assume there's at least 1 hand trap here, because they would have, like at the end of the turn at least, because they would have K2'd until then. The Rahu came from the deck, so there could be a second Rahu here, but there's no traps because the traps are here. So that is the read I can make here. I also know that there's nothing more coming here. Our opponent is trying to go to end phase here, but I tell them I want to end of main, do something. So we have a 5 mana here, and we have to evaluate like what is the situation here. We know they have a Shuttle Beast in hand. We know they didn't add back the Hedgehog, so I don't really have to be afraid of Winda, because if they had a Mululu, which is the other dark they could play, then they would have used it to make seals in addition. So I'm not really scared about being Winda locked. They can have 2 hand traps here. Ash could be really annoying. Ash checks one of my spells and the flame checks the other spell, right? So that is a tough situation. So what is my game plan here? My game plan here is to get my spells through. And what I want to do here is I just decide to not go for Arthalion because I don't have Urgula. If I had Urgula, I would have just gone for Arthalion plus the most amount I can and use the Urgula to pop the flame because I know where it is. But what I do instead here is end of main, I fuse the Mululu and the Dark End Evaporation Dragon. So these are 2 Dark Dragons. So I can go into the Chaos Star Source Dragon, 1 Light or Dark Dragon Monster and 1 Dragon Monster. And you can target cards upon controls up to the number of Light and Dark Monsters used, destroy them. And then if this card is banished, doesn't matter. So I go Chainlink 1, Chaos Star Source, target both traps. And Chainlink 2 is Mululu. So I decided I don't go for like a plus play, I just go straight for the heart, which is the traps. So now I pop both traps, their grind game is gone, right? So I'm already in a good position, plus I removed the flame, which means even if they have an Ash in hand, which they did, I get 1 fusion spell through at least, right? So either K2 or Rahu. So the Mululu goes and sets the Rahu. Again, I can set the spell here knowing that they already used the Urgula, so they cannot have an extra, like if they have a K2 in hand, like they could use K2, fuse into something, and then the Mululu could, the Urgula could pop this. They could Gulamel target this in that case, but again, they went end of main. Most people don't just keep a K2 in hand. So I just set the Rahu here. So now I have both spells, and I say negate Gula with Mululu. Mululu's negate is permanent. So yeah. So I ask if they still want to do something in the main phase still, but they say they still go to end phase. So my turn. I draw Ghost Ogre, useless card, but it doesn't matter here. So here I am testing for Ash. So they know the Rahu. I should have used the Rahu, but I think I didn't want to fusion lock myself just yet. So I just activate the K2. And they decide to not Ash here. I think a lot of like hand trap guides say like, okay, you Ash the Rahu. But in this case, if you have a monster, you Ash the K2 100% of the time. This is the better card of the two. I still get a fusion through at any point, but yeah. Here I decide, okay, I'm going to fuse. And I go for Arthalion. I should have probably used the Ogre here as well, because it's useless. I just swap it, but I think I was afraid of a Veiler. Yeah, okay, I didn't use the Ghost Ogre, because if they had a Veiler, which I know there has to be a hand trap here, and they Veiler this, then I am out of monsters. I cannot use the Rahu, so I just kept a monster in hand, being the Ghost Ogre. So I go Arthalion, target 5 mana and Lucius. Lucius, because I want to normal summon it, 5 mana because it gives me more ways to fuse, because I know the only interaction they have, except for hand traps, is the 5 mana. So I want to be able to react to their 5 mana with my own 5 mana. So yeah, and then I go Pan, and then I go Lucius to set my 2 traps and pop the Arthalion. This is in defense, I can just run over it. And this goes to the grave. Also, if I decide to fuse in main phase still, the Arthalion comes back, which is whatever, whereas the Gulamel coming back can give them another pop, which would be annoying. So I'd rather out this after most fusions are done. So we grab back our spellcasters, we normal summon Lucius, and Lucius grabs us Urgula. Because I was thinking, okay, I want a dragon that I can fuse. I have dragons here, but I'd rather have the bodies on board. In case they want to go for a 5 mana play, I can discard my 5 mana and make Secretarion, which checks their Arthalion line, which means they have to go for something like Winda if they have it, but we decided they probably can't. Or, I don't know, another Gulamel, which is whatever, we don't really care about another Gulamel. So this will check the Arthalion play. So we just turn our Chaos into attack. And here I was thinking, do I want to activate the Rahu? Now the thing is, if a Rahu and they can chain 5 mana, then I get a Gulamel out and they chain 5 mana into... what can they do? They could go for a Mysterion, I guess, but that doesn't do anything here. They can... Oh, these are both spellcasters. They only have spellcasters, okay. They can 5 mana, chain Gulamel, and then target, but I can chain my own 5 mana to that. I think in that moment I was like, okay, if in case they have a dark I don't want to play into Winda, I don't know. I definitely should have used the Rahu here, because you'll see I just try to bait the 5 mana, but my opponent doesn't fall for the bait. And I shouldn't, like, I don't need to try to bait my opponent if I'm already in such a good spot, right? I have the grind game for me, right, because I have Horn and Flame, so I just have to play it safe. So I went into main, tried to bait the 5 mana, I didn't. Now I run over it, I do some damage, but the issue here is now when I activate my Rahu, they can get their Gulamel back. So so I just decided I'll end on this board. Because I know they have a useless Shaddoll in hand. If they don't 5 mana in my turn, then I don't really care about it. If they do 5 mana, I have ways to go around it, right? They can 5 mana, and if they have a Urgula, which they shuffled back last turn, they could pop here, so I wasn't really afraid here. So I'll just go end main 2, try to bait the 5 mana again. They don't go for it. They draw a second Ash because they kept the first one for Rahu. I'm still in a very good spot here. I have the 5 mana and the Urgula, so in any case, if they want to set a fusion spell like a K2, which we deduced they don't have a K2 in hand, we can pop the K2 with an Urgula. Again, always aim for the spells and traps, because that's the grind game, right? You want to deny them activating spells, and you want to try to break the trap loop. So their only play is... they could have normal summoned Lucius, but their only play here is... the play they're doing here is 5 mana. So they go 5 mana. And here I was like, okay, they start with 5 mana, the full hand. So that probably means that they have only one Dracotail, right? So if I remove this one and they try to 5 mana then they are kind of sad. So they just try to go for an Arthalion here, and like that's the only reasonable line here. And I'm saying, okay, this has to be an Arthalion line, so I'm gonna chain my own 5 mana. They don't have called by, so I tell them to send their 5 mana for cost, just to have a clearer view of the game state. And I say, okay, I'm just gonna deny the Arthalion play by making a Secretarian Dragon. So they are gonna go for these two, go for a Secretarian. They probably should have ditched one of the Ashes to just have one more card to bounce. Oh, they can't bounce. Yeah, they have the Secretarian. So yeah, they still went for the Arthalion. I don't know what other options they would have had. I guess this is the biggest monster they can still do with this hand. So they could make their own Secretarian, but then we are just checked with the Secretarians. I guess they want to graveyard resource. So I'm just gonna set my own K2. They're gonna draw their card. It's a Purulia. So yeah, there's a K2 set, and I have the check for the K2 by Dracotail Flame, and that's why my opponent concedes here. So once again, we are going second here, and let's check our hand. It is Fualos and nothing else. My opponent has 2 Solemns, an Ogre, which I don't know if they have, I don't know what their side deck is, but probably try to side this out. I think I sided out mine, and then they have a Mululu 5 mana, not the greatest combo, and then yeah. I tried Solemn Warning, was okay, but I think I just want monsters. Like if this was a Fenrir, it would be a different game here, I think. So they go normal summon Mululu. So this already tells me, okay, their hand has to be not that good. So they go Mululu. I chain Fuvalos. If they have an Ash, like on this hand, if they Ash my Fuvalos, I'm happy because that means the Ash is not hitting my spell. That's just great. But they don't have it, so they just fuse. They go into Athalion, trigger both, and I think with this, I probably just want to set the 2 traps, set these, and I don't know, just pass. Like, I guess getting back the I think Rahu is correct. Yeah, you get rid of the Ogre, you send a Urgula, and then you get the other trap, and the Urgula gets Femina back. So you basically get more interruptions and giving me 1 draw. I think that's correct. So they do that right here. They add back. Yeah, 1 from hand, so they add back 1 card. Which probably should have been the Mululu here, I guess. Because now the Urgula doesn't add anything back. I guess they still have the 5 mana, but they don't want to use it here. So, yeah. It plays around Ash, but now they're gonna... Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, I always forget they just sent the 5 mana. So, they have both traps set again, and they have 2 more cards that are set. Now they accidentally showed me the Judgment, which is unfortunate, but I try to not like let that affect my game here. So they add back the Femina and pass. So that's a lot of back row. And I look at my hand and I'm thinking, okay, the flame is obviously important, and the horn I don't really care about. I play around the horn pretty well here. And the other 2 cards, mystery cards. So I luckily draw into 5 mana. That helps because now I have 3 monster ways to fuse, right? So I don't have a normal summon in hand, so I just go normal summon Mululu. This would lock me into fusions, but it's fine. Like if you go second, you don't really need the seals, right? SP sometimes is nice, but I'm just gonna. They have 4 back row. I just wanna try and bait as much as I can. If the Mululu is not that high value, but if they let it through, I just have a chain blocked Urgula, and I just know where the flame is. I just pop the flame, and from there on, I can just try to use my fusion spells. So normal is okay, and I activate the effect, and they on the effect of Mululu just to get the once per turn out. They Solemn Warning. Okay, so I have nobody on the board. And we try again, right? We just go Dark Anti-Vibration Dragon. We banish the Chaos Star Source Dragon because we don't have another Dark or Light Dragon in hand, right? So, like, this doesn't matter here. We summon this in defense to play around Horn. We could just pop the Athalion, but that's low value, so I'd rather just use this to fuse. They go Ghost Ogre. Probably the only use they'll get of Ghost Ogre is to get the level 8 off the field. But the fusion effect still goes through. So I ditch the nib, I don't need it. I go for the Arthalion in defense again. And I used Arthalion, targeting Mululu and the Gulamel. Just because if the Gulamel decides to pop here, then I don't really care. The Arthalion is going to come back, right? Now the Gulamel is forced, right? And if they activate anything, they can pop the Arthalion, whatever. They probably should have used the Gulamel somehow on my Dark End, because this is an ignition effect. So they could have done something like Horn, target your own Arthalion, and if I don't chain my Femina, which I probably would have at that point, they can chain Gulamel, pop the Dark End, and they have 1 less way to fuse. So we go Urgula effect, and they chain Femina. I say that's fine, and they want to get their value out of the Gulamel. A bit too late, but should have done that to play earlier. They fuse their Spellcaster and the Dragon for a Secretarian, and we set the Kitu, and I just target like, I didn't want to target the solemn because they accidentally showed me. I just say, okay, I'm going to target the flame that is known, right? And we just pop that away. And yeah, so we have a key to here. And we just go activate that because I didn't want to show the information that I have a key to. And they let that through. So I'm like, okay, sure. I'm just going to grab a pan here. And we have a pan and 5 mana for the Secretarian of our own. Now, I use the 5 mana here because I haven't used this yet, but I have an Urgula Engrave, so it's just, you just get it free, right? Get the Rahu value. And then we go pan, we go 5 mana, we go Arthalion. I just want to put a body on board. And also, like, what I want to do is they go their own Arthalion, that's fine. And their Gulamel both come back. They used the Gulamel already, so I'm not afraid. This is nothing, basically. Just put out body blockers. I put the Arthalion. My first monster I summon an attack besides the Mululu is the Arthalion. Mululu, obviously a bad horn target. I can just chain the Mululu effect, and then I even like, right, I just fuse it away. But Arthalion attack, I was like, okay, if you want to bounce something, bounce the Arthalion, because you'll see in a second. So I'm just going to set the flame and the horn, and I decide to pop the Secretarian, and they activate the horn preemptively. I'm like, we are still like resolving the chain, so just like pop the Secretarian first, and then on res you can activate the trap. So they go, okay, I'm going to activate the trap, target the Arthalion, and that was a bait, because how this works is this came from the grave, so if it leaves the field, it gets banished. And if you read Dracotail Horn, this says return it to the hand or extra deck, then, right? So A has to happen for B, so they cannot place, they cannot draw, they just, this was just a compulsory, basically. They try to do it, I just tell them, no, that doesn't work. And then we continue with our play. They correct the whole game state, which is nice of them. We go Urgula, we want a monster in hand. And here we just say, okay, we have 5 mana, we have Rahu, we just go activate Secretarian to bring something back. First we go Rahu, okay. So we go Rahu, we send another Urgula just for the resource engrave. Go Arthalion, and then we go, we are Dragonlock, that's why we had to make a random Arthalion that has no effect. And then we just go Secretarian. I'm like, okay, there's just a back row. I'm just going to run over both of the bodies, and they have nothing, right? They have no Urgula Engrave, they have no cards in hand, they have like one card set that's whatever, trades 1 for 1. I have both traps set. I just run over, like, Arthalion runs over both, and the Secretarian just revives. I don't know, you can even revive the pan and run over one of these, and then we are set. We don't have a 5 mana set up here, but that's fine. So that's a very basic mirror match where I basically play against the standard board, a bit of older list because this still has Solemns in it, and just some little tricks and interactions that you have to know. So hope you liked this kind of videos. I think the first time I do a replay analysis. If you liked it, if you want to see like an actual like grind game mirror match, let me know, and I'll see you next time.